This is a place of victory and overcoming obstacles, a place of triumph and success, and a place of greatness and respect. On and off the field, Virginia Tech has earned the respect of the nation and the world through its commitment to innovation, excellence in education, and a culture in which every student can maximize his or her potential. Virginia Tech graduates are leading the way in industries and disciplines of all sorts because of the education and values that this university instills in its students each and every day. I want to commend the leadership of students for always striving to be the best, and please don't ever let that stop. First, I want to thank Dr. Charles Steger for his leadership and dedication over the past 14 years as president of Virginia Tech. Dr. Steger is a true Virginia leader and the very embodiment of Virginia Tech's motto, that I may serve. He has led this university through good times and through some of the darkest moments in our Commonwealth's and our nation's history. And I have no doubt that he will continue to serve Virginians as he begins the next chapter of his life. Dr. Steger, I wish you well in your retirement, and on behalf of all Virginians, thank you for what you have done. And I would now ask everybody in this stadium to stand and give a round of applause for the outstanding leadership of Dr. Charles Steger. And now to the class of 2014. First of all, I want you to know that I have sat where you are sitting now. And nothing is worse than a politician giving a long and boring commencement address. All right. Start your watches. I promise to be done in less than 10 minutes, folks. So you can get on to celebrating if you haven't already started. I am here to congratulate each and every one of you for the hard work that you put into making today possible. I'm here to thank the professors, the parents, family, and friends for the support each of you have offered the graduates today to help them reach this very important milestone in their lives. In fact, graduates, let me ask you once again, I want the graduates to stand and applaud all the loved ones who are in this stadium today, who made today possible. And finally, I'm here to offer you a few pieces of advice that I hope you will follow as you head out and begin to apply the things you've learned here at Tech in your everyday lives. But before I get to that, I just want to take a moment to look back and see how far you have come over the last 4 years. When most of you arrived here in 2010, the world looked a lot different than it does today. Your first year in college was also the first year of the iPad. Now you can't walk into a classroom, airport, or a coffee shop without seeing dozens of tablet computers of all shapes and sizes. When you got here to Virginia Tech, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, and Spotify didn't even exist. And now these programs are changing the way we communicate with folks all over the globe. And when most of you arrived here in August of 2010 as 18 or 19-year-olds, the #1 song in the nation was fittingly Katy Perry's Teenage Dream. But over the 4 years, all of you have left those days behind and transformed yourselves from those teenage dreamers into educated young adults who are about to graduate from one of the greatest universities in the world. But before you head out to celebrate, I would like to share with you a couple pieces of advice. There are 3 things that I tell my 5 children every time we talk about their future. And they are the same 3 things that I tell my cabinet every Monday morning when we meet. Those 3 pieces of advice are simple. Always think big, always take chances, and please don't ever be afraid to fail. Let's start with the first one, think big. I don't know how many of you know how I started my career, but my folks couldn't afford to send me to college. So at the age of 14, I went out and started my own business, Mccauliffe driveway maintenance. I knew I had to start my business, but I had no idea of what kind until I was walking home one day and I saw an older guy out in front of his house sealing his driveway. He was sweating and cursing and covered in hot black tar. I took one look at him and I knew right away that I could do a great job of sealing driveways, so guys like him wouldn't have to. I hurried home and I typed up a flyer to pass out to the neighbors. And by the end of my first day, I had 6 jobs. I still remember that day like it was yesterday. I was now in business. I was an entrepreneur. The next summer, I decided that I had to go big. I had to start doing parking lots. I'm 15, I have a couple dozen folks working for me, but I needed a truck to haul those large barrels of tar around, 55-gallon drums of tar. I'm 15, I didn't have a truck, so I went out to an old abandoned junkyard and found a beat-up old truck. I spent several hours with gas and oil and spark plugs. I was literally working on engines. And folks, when I got up in that big truck and got behind the wheel, and I turned that engine, and that engine roared to life, I still get goosebumps to this day. I drove that truck home down Interstate 81. I went back to by the New York State substation of the state troopers. They were all out having coffee. I was so jacked up. I was hitting the horn. I was waving. I didn't have any license plates. And I didn't have a driver's license. But let me tell you this, folks, I was an entrepreneur. I made it. I was a success. And I knew at that time that my dream of attending college was now in reach. Little did I know that tarring driveways and bank parking lots would someday lead me to start dozens of companies and to become the youngest bank chairman in our nation's history, and then ultimately culminating with my career as the 72nd governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, I'm not suggesting that all of you leave here and take up sealing driveways for a living. But I do hope that as you begin the next phase of your lives, that you act boldly to accomplish your goals. If you see an opportunity, seize it. You may not always know exactly where that journey will take you, but you will never regret taking a bold step to make life better for yourself, your family, and your community. The second piece of advice I tell everybody is take chances. My greatest lesson in the power of taking chances came when I was your age. I had just graduated from college. I had just begun my first week of law school when a friend of mine called and told me that he had just taken a job working on President Carter's re-election campaign. He offered me the opportunity to join the campaign and become a fundraiser. I jumped at the chance. Now, I bet you can imagine how the conversation went with my mother when I told her I was leaving law school and a scholarship. I was leaving that behind to join a beleaguered political campaign. But I decided this was an experience that I needed to have. Over the course of that campaign, I visited over 40 states and became the youngest national finance director of a presidential campaign in the history of our great country at the age of 23. Taking that bold chance at that young age changed my life. Now, I am certain that there are some parents out there now also who may not be thrilled to hear me urging their children to put law school aside to go work on a presidential campaign. And that certainly shouldn't be the lesson that you take away from today. What I hope you will always remember is is that there always is a difference between accepting a comfortable life and reaching for an exceptional one. Taking a chance means putting comfort aside and aspiring to do something greater, knowing full well that you may fail. Now, I did eventually graduate from Georgetown Law School. Now, I'm not sure that was the right future for me, but I could see myself, I guess, as a corporate lawyer someday. But when I look back at all the experience that I have had, the journey that I have taken across this great nation, as a result of taking that chance as a 23-year-old kid, I'm glad that I took that chance. Each of you will have opportunities to make decisions like that one as your lives move forward. Taking every risk that comes your way is not wise. But neither is passing on every opportunity out of fear of risk or the unknown. Finally, my last piece of advice is a follow-up on the previous two. If you are bold and if you take chances, let me tell you something. You are going to fail. You're going to experience rejection at times. But please, don't be afraid to fail. And that makes the difference with so many folks, because they're afraid to fail. Don't. Few people are more qualified to offer this piece of advice than I am. As some of you may recall, I actually applied for my current job more than once. Yep. Back in 2009, I decided to run for governor because I thought I could make a difference in the Commonwealth, make it a better place to live. I had a great life, I had a career that I enjoyed, but for me, it was the right chance to take. I started a campaign and brought my case to the Virginia voters. If you remember back in 2009, I talked about big ideas and how we needed to move Virginia forward. I talked about high-speed rail, wind turbines out in the Atlantic Ocean, a renewable energy standard. I said, if you don't like my big ideas, don't vote for me. And you didn't. That's all right, have a great time. But folks, I still remember waking up that next morning. I don't like to fail, nobody does. But having fallen short of my goal, and deciding that if I did what I said during that campaign, if I believed I could create jobs and make this a better place for my family and families all across Virginia, that I couldn't take no for an answer. So I got out of bed that next day, and I dusted myself off. And I spent the next 4 years visiting every nook and cranny in Virginia. And I can tell you without a doubt that the things I learned and the people I met, and the stories I heard, the ideas that I formed during that first time were indispensable in getting me here today and helping me on my job as governor. So folks, it's not an issue of failure. The real question is, what do you do that next day? So when you take chances and you get knocked down, and I've had it in business and life, you get yourself back up that next day. You get yourself back to that arena. As Teddy Roosevelt talked about those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Don't you ever be one of those cold and timid souls. So as you walk across the stage today and begin the next chapter of your life, I hope you will adopt some of these issues that I talked about today. Think big, take chances, and don't be afraid to fail. In closing, I have a few other little nuggets I learned along the way. There's no such thing as a bad day. Every day that you wake up and get out of bed has the potential to be a great one. If you have a bad day, then guess what? You're in the wrong line of business. Do something about it. Never take yourself too seriously, and always be positive. People want to be around winners, not whiners. Roll with the punches and always be flexible. You may miss opportunities if you're too rigid. Do what you want to do with your life. You only live once. One of my best mottos: sleep when you are dead. finally, if you remember one thing from this speech, in whatever you do, always, always have fun. Thank you, and congratulations to the class.
Thank you, Governor Mccauliffe, for joining our newest graduates and providing such an inspiring message. I'm Tom Tiller, Vice President for Alumni Relations, and it's my pleasure on behalf of the